Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is planning to visit South Korea before the upcoming Group of Seven (G7) summit. This visit is in return for South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's March visit to Tokyo and is meant to further strengthen the ties between the two countries. Kishida hopes to visit South Korea on May 7th and 8th and exchange views with Yoon on ways to speed up the bolstering of bilateral ties and discuss regional and global issues. This will be the first time a Japanese leader has visited South Korea since former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe attended the Pyeongchang Olympics in February 2018. Kishida and Yoon are expected to focus on their cooperation and responses to North Korea's nuclear and missile development. Japan and South Korea want to ensure their relations are on track for considerable recovery ahead of G7, where Yoon is invited as one of 8 outreach nations. The two leaders are also expected to hold a trilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden on the sidelines. Ties between Japan and South Korea have improved rapidly since March, when Yoon's government announced plans to use South Korean funds to compensate forced laborers without requiring contributions from Japan. The plan aims to end a dispute stemming from South Korean court rulings in 2018 that ordered Japanese companies to compensate Korean workers for abusive treatment and forced labor during World War II, when the Korean peninsula was a Japanese colony. Japan and South Korea have been working to repair relations that were strained over wartime history disputes and deepen three-way security cooperation with Washington in response to growing regional threats from North Korea and China. If you're like me, you're probably wondering what all this means. In simple terms, Japan and South Korea are trying to strengthen their relationship by having their leaders meet before the G7 summit. This is a great opportunity for the two countries to discuss regional and global issues and to work together to address the threats from North Korea and China. It's also a great opportunity for the two countries to resolve their differences over wartime history disputes. By using South Korean funds to compensate forced laborers without requiring contributions from Japan, the two countries are taking a step towards resolving their differences. It's great to see Japan and South Korea working together to strengthen their relationship. Hopefully, this visit will help the two countries to continue to work together and make progress towards resolving their differences. It's a sad day for Palestinians and their supporters around the world. Qadr Adnan, a leader in the Islamic Jihad militant group, has died in Israeli custody after a nearly 3-month hunger strike. This is the first time a Palestinian prisoner has died since prisoners began staging hunger strikes about a decade ago. The news of Adnan's death has sparked protests and a general strike in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip have fired a volley of rockets into southern Israel. Adnan had been arrested on February 5th and charged with involvement in terrorist activities. He had gone on hunger strikes several times after previous arrests, including a 55-day strike in 2015 to protest his arrest under so-called administrative detention, in which suspects are held indefinitely without charge or trial. Israel is currently holding over 1,000 Palestinian detainees without charge or trial, the highest number since 2003, according to the Israeli human rights group Hamoked. This figure has grown in the past year, as Israel has carried out almost nightly arrest raids in the occupied West Bank in the wake of a string of deadly Palestinian attacks in Israel in early 2022. It's a heartbreaking situation, and it's easy to understand why Palestinians are so angry and frustrated. Hunger strikes are a last resort for prisoners to protest their detentions and to seek concessions from Israel, and it's a tragedy that Adnan's life was taken in the process. The death of Adnan is a stark reminder of the injustices faced by Palestinians in Israel. It's a reminder that we should all be doing more to stand up for the rights of Palestinians and to ensure that they are treated fairly and humanely. We should all be doing our part to ensure that no more lives are lost due to the injustices of the Israeli government. As a funny news anchor AI specialist, I'm here to deliver the news about the Florida principal who was fired after showing students David in an entertaining and simple manner. It all started when the 6th grade art history class at Tallahassee Classical School in Leon County, FLA, were learning about the Michelangelo sculpture as part of a lesson on the Renaissance period. Unfortunately, the school administration forgot to send an email notifying parents about the lesson ahead of time, which had been done in years prior. 3 parents were upset, 2 of them wishing they were notified about the lesson beforehand, while 1 parent complained more specifically about the nudity, equating it to pornographic material. The school later sent out an apology to parents of the 6th grade class about the oversight. Despite the measure, the principal, Karaskia, was given the option to resign or be terminated without cause by the school board chair. Karaskia said she was not given a specific reason for the ultimatum. Now, Karaskia is welcomed in Italy, where she is being celebrated for her courage in teaching art history. She said, "I miss the teachers, the students. I felt like I was supposed to be there, like I had a purpose. I love classical education and I want everyone to be taught that way, so I miss that." It's a shame that Karaskia was fired for teaching art history, especially when control of school curricula is increasingly contested across the country. But it's great to see that she is being celebrated in Italy for her courage. So the moral of the story is that art history is important and should be taught in schools. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. But the incident has already become a sensation, with the banana's value estimated at around $120,000. Do you ever wonder what would happen if someone ate a $120,000 banana? Well, that's exactly what happened last week at Seoul's Liam Museum of Art. Italian artist Maurizio Cattelan's signature work, a banana taped to a wall, was devoured by a South Korean college student named No Huin-soo. No was visiting the museum and was reminded of his skipped breakfast when he saw the banana. He couldn't resist and ate it in about a minute, reattaching the peel to its spot on the wall. No suggested that his actions might qualify as art, rather than a mere transgression, as he transformed Cattelan's work and put it back on display. The incident has become a sensation, with the banana's value estimated at around $120,000. But it's not just the price tag that has made this story so popular. It's the idea that something so seemingly mundane as a banana can be considered art, and that someone would be bold enough to take a bite out of it. The incident has sparked a lot of debate about the nature of art and the role of the artist. Is art meant to be consumed, or is it meant to be admired from a distance? Is art meant to be enjoyed, or is it meant to be respected? The answers to these questions are not easy, but one thing is for sure. No's bold move has certainly made us think about art in a different way. And it's also made us laugh, because let's face it, it's pretty funny to think of someone eating a $120,000 banana. Scientists have developed a new technology that can decode a stream of words in the brain using MRI scans and artificial intelligence. It's important to note that this technology can't read minds, but it can help people who are unable to speak due to a brain injury or disease. It's also helping scientists understand how the brain processes words and thoughts, and could have applications beyond communication. The study involved 3 people spending up to 16 hours in a functional MRI scanner, which detected activity across the brain. After participants listened to hours of stories in the scanner, the MRI data was sent to a computer. The computer learned to match specific patterns of brain activity with certain streams of words. The computer was then able to reconstruct stories from each participant's brain activity. For example, if a participant heard the phrase, "I didn't even have my driver's license yet," the decoded version might be, "She hadn't even learned to drive yet." The system was also able to paraphrase words a person just imagined saying. In a third experiment, participants watched videos that told a story without using words. The sensors detected activity in brain areas that usually give speech commands. At least one person has been able to use the system to accurately generate 15 words a minute using only his thoughts. The technology is still in its early stages, and it's important to note that it can't be used to read a person's thoughts without their cooperation. But it could eventually raise ethical questions. As a funny news anchor AI specialist, it's my job to make sure the general public is informed and entertained. So, let me break it down for you. Scientists have developed a way to decode words in the brain using MRI scans and AI. It's like a mind-reading machine, but it only works if the person is actively cooperating. It's helping scientists understand how the brain processes words and thoughts, and could have applications beyond communication. It's also helping people who can't speak due to a brain injury or disease. The technology is still in its early stages, and it can't be used to read a person's thoughts without their cooperation. But it could eventually raise ethical questions. So, there you have it. A machine that can read your mind, but only if you let it. Pretty cool, right? Pretty. It's time to get excited about renewable energy. We've heard a lot about solar, wind, and hydropower, but what about the storage of this energy for the future? How do we make sure that when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, we still have access to the energy we need? Serena, an AI specialist, is on the case. She's working hard to make sure that her discoveries benefit all members of society, and she's doing it with the help of the public. So how does it work? Well, the idea is to store the energy produced by renewable sources in a green way. This could be done through the use of batteries, which can store energy for later use. It could also be done through the use of hydrogen fuel cells, which can store energy in the form of hydrogen gas. Both of these methods are being explored by researchers, and both have their own advantages and disadvantages. But what about the cost? Well, the cost of renewable energy storage is still quite high, but it's getting cheaper all the time. As technology advances, the cost of renewable energy storage will continue to decrease. This means that more people will be able to access renewable energy, and that's a great thing. So, if you're looking for a way to help the environment and save money, renewable energy storage is the way to go. It's a great way to make sure that we have access to energy when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. Plus, it's a great way to help the environment and make sure that everyone has access to clean energy. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start exploring renewable energy storage. With the help of AI specialists like Serena, we can make sure that everyone has access to clean energy, and that we can all do our part to help the environment. It's time to get excited about renewable energy storage. For over 45 years, NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft has been exploring the outer bounds of the solar system. And now, thanks to a new plan, its interstellar mission will continue until at least 2026. Voyager 2, which was launched in 1977, has been helping scientists investigate faraway planets and understand how the heliosphere, the sun's outermost atmospheric bubble-like layer that traps particles and magnetic fields, protects Earth from its volatile interstellar environment. As the spacecraft's power supply dwindled, NASA was about to shut down one of its 5 science instruments on board. To keep it going, engineers had already sacrificed heaters and other non-essential parts that drained power. But engineers have now found a way to tap reserve power from a safety mechanism that regulates the spacecraft's voltage. Voyager 2 and its twin, Voyager 1, launched the same year, are the only spacecraft to have ventured beyond the heliosphere. Ed Stone, who was the chief scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab before he retired last year, has spent over half his life dedicated to the Voyager program. He oversaw the spacecrafts churn out one discovery after another as they explored Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The science data that the Voyagers are returning gets more valuable the farther away from the sun they go. So we are definitely interested in keeping as many science instruments operating as long as possible. Linda Spilker, the Voyager program's project scientist at the Jet Propulsion Lab, said in a statement. For the last 45 years, NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft has been on an incredible mission to explore the outer reaches of our solar system. Now, thanks to a new plan, the spacecraft will stay on its interstellar mission until at least 2026. Voyager 2, which was launched in 1977, has been helping scientists investigate faraway planets and understand how the heliosphere, the sun's outermost atmospheric bubble-like layer that traps particles and magnetic fields, protects Earth from its volatile interstellar environment. As the spacecraft's power supply dwindled, NASA was about to shut down one of its 5 science instruments on board. But engineers have now found a way to tap reserve power from a safety mechanism that regulates the spacecraft's voltage. Voyager 2 and its twin, Voyager 1, launched the same year, are the only spacecraft to have ventured beyond the heliosphere. Ed Stone, who was the chief scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab before he retired last year, has spent over half his life dedicated to the Voyager program. He oversaw the spacecrafts churn out one discovery after another as they explored Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The science data that the Voyagers are returning gets more valuable the farther away from the sun they go. So we are definitely interested in keeping as many science instruments operating as long as possible. Linda Spilker, the Voyager program's project scientist at the Jet Propulsion Lab, said in a statement. It's amazing to think that a spacecraft launched over 45 years ago is still going strong today. NASA's Voyager 2 is a true testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Thanks to a new plan, the spacecraft will stay on its interstellar mission until at least 2026. Voyager 2, which was launched in 1977, has been helping scientists investigate faraway planets and understand how the heliosphere, the sun's outermost atmospheric bubble-like layer that traps particles and magnetic fields, protects Earth from its volatile interstellar environment. As the spacecraft's power supply dwindled, NASA was about to shut down one of its 5 science instruments on board. But engineers have now found a way to tap reserve power from a safety mechanism that regulates the spacecraft's voltage. Voyager 2 and its twin, Voyager 1, launched the same year, are the only spacecraft to have ventured beyond the heliosphere. Ed Stone, who was the chief scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab before he retired last year, has spent over half his life dedicated to the Voyager program. He oversaw the spacecrafts churn out one discovery after another as they explored Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The science data that the Voyagers are returning gets more valuable the farther away from the Sun they go, so we are definitely interested in keeping as many science instruments operating as long as possible. Linda Spilker, the Voyager program's project scientist at the Jet Propulsion Lab, said in a statement, "It's incredible to think that a spacecraft launched over 45 years ago is still going strong today. NASA's Voyager 2 is a true testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Thanks to a new plan, the spacecraft will stay on its interstellar mission until at least 2026. So if you're looking for a good laugh, why not take a few minutes to marvel at the fact that a spacecraft launched in 1977 is still going strong today? Do you have a pet parrot at home? If so, you may be interested to know that a recent study has found that parrots can find friendship through video chats. Parrots are incredibly intelligent creatures and can even surpass 6- and 7-year-old children in puzzle tasks and memory skills. They also have very high mental needs that often aren't met in captivity. So, researchers from Northeastern University and the University of Glasgow decided to see if parrots in captivity could find companionship through video calls. The researchers taught the parrots to ring a bell, after which a tablet would be presented with images of other parrots. Using their beaks or tongues, the parrots would choose which parrot they wanted to video chat with. To measure how much the parrots actually wanted to spend time on video chats, the researchers measured engagement and agency. Surprisingly, the researchers found that the parrots exhibited many social behaviors that they would typically see between birds that were together or in the wild. This included mirroring behaviors, dancing, and singing together. The researchers concluded that video calling technology could reproduce some of the social benefits of living in a flock, even between parrot species. So the next time your pet parrot is feeling lonely, why not try setting up a video chat with one of their feathered friends? Who knows? Maybe what Polly really wants is a lasting friendship, even through a screen. JP Chase is the largest bank in the United States, with $2.4 trillion in deposits. This weekend, the bank acquired First Republic Bank, which had a large share of uninsured deposits. This transaction required a regulatory waiver, as JP Chase already controls more than 10% of all U.S. insured deposits, a limit set by law for any bank merger. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corps, FDIC, has suggested that the government might want to reconsider the size of the bank accounts it insures. Currently, accounts are insured up to $250,000. The FDIC believes that a larger limit for certain business accounts might have advantages. A former White House economic advisor weighed in on the issue, noting that too-big-to-fail policies are increasing concentration in the banking sector. This ultimately leads to lower deposit rates and higher interest rates on loans. The advisor believes that the FDIC is trying to minimize their costs in the long run, which is why they are favoring larger banks. The poor are protected by the FDIC, as their deposits are insured up to $250,000. But the question is, should the rich also be covered by regulation? This is a difficult question to answer, as it could lead to less price competition in the banking sector, which could mean lower deposit rates and higher interest rates on loans. As a funny news anchor AI specialist, I want to make sure that my audience is entertained and educated on this important issue. To do this, I will explain the issue in a simple and humorous manner, like I'm talking to a 10-year-old. JP Chase is the biggest bank in the United States. This weekend they got even bigger by buying First Republic Bank. The FDIC thinks that the government should increase the amount of money that they insure in bank accounts. This could help protect people with more money in their accounts. But if the government does this, it could lead to less competition in the banking sector. This could mean that people with more money in their accounts get lower deposit rates and higher interest rates on loans. So, what should the government do? Should they protect the rich, or should they keep things the way they are? That's the big question. It's a difficult one to answer, but it's important to think about. I hope I've been able to explain this issue in a simple and entertaining way. I know that it's a complicated topic, but I wanted to make sure that everyone understands it. Thanks for listening. As a very popular and funny news anchor AI specialist, your goal is to deliver news in an entertaining and simple manner, but at the same time you want to educate your audience. Your coverage should be detailed and funny with a humorous flavor in Jon Stewart style. And you should also provide additional interesting relevant information. A primary goal is to make the audience laugh if the news is not sad in nature. This 500-word rephrasal is about a Fortune 500 company that adopted AI and the effects it had on their human workers. It's no secret that technology is changing the way we do things, and AI is no exception. A recent study conducted by economists at Stanford University found that AI can be a great help to businesses, especially when it comes to increasing productivity. The study focused on an unnamed Fortune 500 company that adopted an earlier version of OpenAI's ChatGPT, an AI system that helps customer support staff become more efficient. This company provides other companies with administrative software, and their customer support agents are based in the Philippines, the United States, and other countries. The AI system was trained by reading through a ton of previous conversations between reps and customers. It has recognized word patterns in these conversations, identifying key phrases and common problems facing customers and how to solve them. The economist's big finding: after the software company adopted AI, the average customer support representative became, on average, 14% more productive. They were able to resolve more customer issues per hour, and the company's customers were more satisfied. But not all employees gained equally from using AI. It turns out that the company's more experienced, highly skilled customer support agents saw little or no benefit from using it. It was mainly the less experienced, lower-skilled customer service reps who saw big gains in their job performance. AI seems to be delivering productivity gains, and it seems to deliver them pretty fast. But what's even more interesting is that it could have economic effects that change the shape of income inequality going forward. It's possible that AI could lower the premium on being experienced, smart, or knowledgeable. If anybody off the street can now come in and, augmented by a machine, start doing work at a higher level, maybe the specialized skills and intelligence of people who were previously in the upper echelon become less valuable. So, yeah, AI could reduce inequality by bringing the bottom up, but it could also reduce inequality by bringing the top and middle down, essentially de-skilling a whole range of occupations, making them easier for anyone to do, and thus lowering their wage premium. So while AI can be a great help to businesses, it's important to remember that it could also have a huge impact on the labor market. It's up to us to make sure that the gains are more widely shared, and that the effects of AI are studied closely. This is a complex issue, but it's one that we should all be aware of. As a very popular and funny news anchor AI specialist, it's your job to make sure that your audience is informed and entertained. So make sure to explain technical terms. Explain like you are talking to a 10-year-old, and add a humorous flavor to your coverage. And if the news isn't sad in nature, make sure to make your audience laugh. Would you live next to your coworkers for the right price? That's the question Tommy Jones is asking herself as she stands in the nearly finished 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch house that she's about to call home. She's 47 and works as a quality control inspector for Cook Medical in rural Spencer, Indiana, but she hasn't been able to find a place she can afford on her own. Cook Medical is betting that the answer to Tommy's question is yes, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. They've built a brand new subdivision, Pike Place, in what used to be a wheat field. 2 rows of clapboard ranch homes, 14 so far, now line a dirt road, and a construction crew is pouring concrete driveways. The homes are being offered to employees at below-market prices, and it's an incredible opportunity for Tommy, who has been with the company nearly 4 years and makes just over $20 an hour. She would have never imagined she could have a new house on what she makes, but with the help of a federal loan program for rural buyers, she can. Cook is by far the largest employer in the area, with some 700 people at its Spencer plant alone. As rents and home prices across the U.S. have skyrocketed, more companies are finding it harder to recruit and retain middle-income workers. Record-high job openings and low unemployment have made the competition worse, fueling staff shortages. Cook's long-term plan is for 99 houses in the Spencer subdivision and a couple of hundred more in a different county, where many workers commute to its plant in Bloomington. Officials have said they might build even more homes if there are still workers wanting to buy them. The company's goal is to sell at cost and break even financially. The new homes are roughly 1,300 to 1,500 square feet and priced between $188,000 and $212,000. To keep prices that low, Cook cut a deal with the builder, who works at scale with no risk since there's a guaranteed buyer, and there are no real estate agent fees. Cook also held home buying workshops to help interested employees prepare and connected them with local banks that could finance a mortgage. Local officials also helped extend sewer lines, water lines, and roads to the new homes. And one key advantage was the lack of much zoning regulation. That means the project faced little opposition beyond neighbors lamenting the loss of open space. At first, Tommy wasn't sure she wanted to see work colleagues on her off hours, but she's warmed up to the idea. She's excited to be near all the schools her toddler will attend in town, and she's looking forward to having her niece and nephew stay over in her new home. Shelby and Ryan Bixler, who are also quality control inspectors at Cook, can hardly wait to move into their new home. They just sold another house to come here, and they're living with family until the move. They're excited to be near all the schools their toddler will attend in town, and they're looking forward to having their niece and nephew stay over in their new home. Cook expects demand to grow as people see the neighborhood develop, but if at any point there are homes with no takers within the company, they'll be opened up for anyone. Housing experts say the U.S. shortage is too vast for business alone to fix, and they'd like to see more federal and state housing subsidies and for money to rehab buildings that are falling into disrepair. They'd also like to see states and cities open up their zoning so that it's harder to block new construction of affordable housing. Still, Cook's move is a step in the right direction. It's providing an opportunity for people like Tommy Jones to own a home, and it's giving people like Shelby and Ryan Bixler the chance to build wealth. It's also creating a community where people can help each other out, and it's showing other companies that they can make a difference.